rebuild or the favorites. We here for the latest. South side or the north side, not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams. Both sides got our own rings. On the mound or the long ball, but we don't put the wrong strings. Yeah. It's that time of the year now. Wrigley or Gantes or the whole league that we hear now. New show with a new mood. Discussions and interviews. Straight rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Ivy. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. I'm Mitchell Kaminski, bringing you White Sox talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Had a bit of a layoff these last couple weeks, so lots happened since then. Figured it'd be a good time to jump back into the swing of things. Make sure you're following us at Sports Mockery, sportsmockery.com, and at Pinwheels and Ivy. You can follow us on Twitter at PinwheelsPod. There's rumors. The return of the Zoo could be coming. The band could be getting back together. Still hammering out details, but make sure you're following along to get, one of the, instead of these diet episodes here, you get the full-blown Pinwheels and Ivy experience. Anyway, this week is White Sox baseball was, I think, a perfect encapsulation of this season because, they did so many things right. They had so many things that were promising. It all kind of started. They had an ugly loss against the Twins to open that three game set against them. They kind of rallied back and salvaged it. I think they ended up losing 9-7 in that one, but they made it look respectable. Next two games they come out, they kick the Twins' ass 7-3. And then they win 7-0. Come in the next game, they win 8-0 against the Royals, or 8-0, I beg your pardon, against the Twins. Come in the next game, they win 7-0 against the Royals. So, they're riding a streak here of they had, 20, I believe, consecutive scoreless innings going. During that stretch, they'd outscored opponents 15-0. Martin Perez comes back on the mound last night. He's dealing, gets through 7 innings, does not allow a walk, allows just 1 hit. He strikes out 5. Guy looks good. I mean, he's looked good ever since he's gotten back. We're going to talk about him in just a second. But White Sox had 27 consecutive scoreless innings. He leaves the game. The White Sox have a 4-0 lead. So things are looking great. You get all these rookies producing. Montgomery hits another home run on a ball that looked like a swing you'd see out of a PlayStation game. That looked like an MLB The Show swing when you have, I think it was Sean Anderson that tweeted, and it was exactly right. When you have the settings on rookie, he kind of just reached out and swung at that thing, and next thing you know, it's a line drive. Everything's going right for the Sox. Then they bring in the bullpen. And until Tuesday night, no team had ever, in the modern era, had a pitcher that had thrown 7+ innings, allowed no runs, 1 hit or less, and then not gotten the win. Martin Perez is the first one. Did not get the win. And this is the problem is when you don't have a whole lot of bullets in your bullpen, you feel so good about this team, and then you're kind of reminded, there's a reason this team might lose 100 games this year. Because of stuff like that. And it's hard to blame anyone, especially for that collapse. They bring in Grant Taylor. And the issue is, they don't have a whole lot of bullets in that bullpen. So, they turn to Jordan Leisure in the 8th. Leisure gets in trouble, loads the bases. So then they got to turn to Grant Taylor, who's one of their only bullets they have. The problem with Taylor is, I think, they view him as a starter long-term. He wants to be a starter long-term. His main weapons is fastball. And it's a very good fastball at that. It's pretty effective. But he throws it 53% of the time, like used to, right? Fastball is coming. First hitter he's facing is Miguel Garcia, who hits fastballs really well. 293 batting average. I was looking it up earlier today against fastball. First pitch, he greets him with a single. That scores 2 runs. Then all of a sudden, 4-0 lead becomes 4-2. He manages to get out of that, but then makes a couple mistakes in the 9th, loads the bases again. He had Vinny Pasquantino down 0-2, he put a pitch in the strike zone. He probably shouldn't have in that situation. That lets a guy on. I know he missed a spot with Kyle Isabella, too, that he said after the game he wasn't particularly happy with. That ties the game. So, it's just the growing pains you're going to see. And, I get it. This is what's going to happen. It's hard to be mad at Grant Taylor. He's a 23-year-old rookie. They're throwing into high-leverage situations because they don't have a lot of whole other guys they trust. I think there's some pieces in that bullpen, but that's something they're probably going to have to – they want to take a significant step next year, continue adding, left-handed bats, and then getting that bullpen solidified. They need some more. I think they need some more veterans back there. Because right now it's a lot of young guys. It's a lot of young, unproven guys. Jordan Leisure's been there a few years now, but he's not very reliable. Mike Vassell, I think, is a good pickup. He could potentially be a setup man type, but again, he's still young. You got Dan Altavilla, who's been solid this year, and then Steven Wilson. But Wilson, while his numbers have been really good, and I like Steven Wilson, I think you're kind of seeing what they expected to be getting out of him when they traded for him from San Diego. opponents are hitting him hard. Like, he's run into some pretty good luck as far as, like, guys will be hitting line drives right at people quite often against Steven Wilson. Like, those numbers could look a lot worse than they do. I think he's just at a tick over. He's at like about a 3 flat ERA. So he has respectable numbers, but I don't know if he's the guy that you can really trust. We got Ian in the chat here. Thank you. Altavilla is in Charlotte of the last time. Yeah, we haven't seen him in a while. I did know he was on the IL briefly, I wanted to say. But yeah, again, and like he's another guy too. He's been kind of a quad A player his whole life. Like when they got him last year from the Royals, he spent most of last season in the minor leagues too. So, I mean, if that's one of the guys you're trusting, again, like the bullpen, pretty big issue. Now, one of the positive things that I have seen with this team, and this has been an issue they did not address for a long time. For whatever reason, they never had a whole lot of left-handed bats, especially in a park like Guaranteed Rate Field. If you get some left-handed power going to right field, it's helpful, right? Like you can see, like you get, and then like you never saw that. Like when the White Sox were, in their contention window, who are their left-handed bats, especially power bats? Yeah, you guys, Mahoney Grandal, switch hitter. Yohan Moncada, switch hitter. They needed more lefties. So now you're seeing Colson Montgomery emerge. You're seeing Kyle Teal, Caro, also switch hitter. But you're getting some more lefties in this lineup. Talkman is another lefty. I think that's really helped this offense this year. They promoted Corey Lee to bring in a third catcher. And now you're starting to see, I think it's paid dividends already. And now Lee's only appeared in, he played in that one game homered. But having Corey Lee now in that roster, it gives them more flexibility, having the 3 catchers. Because I think before, and a lot of fans, myself included, would be calling for, why are we not seeing Caro and Teal in the same lineup? But Venable's kind of in a tight spot. It's because, like, when you only got the 2 catchers, if one of them gets hurt, you kind of need that flexibility, either as, like, a late game sub or as a defensive replacement. Or if he's already as a DH, it's going to put you in a little bit of tighter spot as far as having to move guys around. Now they don't have to worry about that. You got Lee as your emergency catcher, kind of. And so I think you're going to see a lot more consistent at-bats from Teal and Caro, especially in the same lineup. I really like the fact that they moved Teal near the top of the lineup, having him lead off. I think that's a great spot for him. He draws a lot of walks. He is kind of sneaky fast, too. Like, he's a scrappy, for a catcher, he's got some decent speed. He's stolen a pair of bases this year, but he hits for a high average and he gets on base. And I know a lot of people are devaluing batting average nowadays, and I might be, old school. But, everything's focused on hitting home runs, and you have these high strikeout numbers. Nothing wrong with a guy that hits for a high average. Like, look at some of the best hitters in my lifetime anyway. Some of the names that come to mind, Albert Pujols. Yeah, he'd hit his 30 bombs a year. He could hit for power, but if you look at some of his bigger years, he's hitting like 330, over 300. This year, you don't see any guys hitting for average anymore. So I always like, if you can hit for a high average, I always value that as a player. That means you're a good hitter. There's sometimes, like, you want it, you need a hit. Walk's nice, but when you need a run in the 9th inning, there's a guy in second base, sometimes you need a hit. So I like the batting, and I like the fact that Teal, he gets on base, he draws his walks, he also hits for a nice high, he hits for a high average walk. I think you need a couple of those guys in the lineup. It's okay to have your boppers that strike out a lot, but when everyone's doing that, I think that's why you see some of these runs, the scoring's down. There's only like 2 guys right now in the MLB, and I think Freddie Freeman's one of them, that are hitting over 300. That's absurd. And I know the pitchers are better than ever, but again, it is kind of I'm kind of going off on a side tangent here, but I do like the fact the White Sox now, they have those 3 catchers. They have some flexibility there. I think it's really helped open up the offense quite a bit. Lenyn Sosa has been really good. That brings up another interesting question with him is, where do you put Sosa? Because I think he's hit well enough this year where he solidified a spot in the lineup moving forward. Like, he's earned it. But, do you really want a 25-year-old DH? It's kind of the same thing you had with Eloy Jimenez. Where do you put him defensively? I think third base would make the most sense, but you also got Miguel Vargas, who's been playing pretty good. You want to put him at third base. So that'll be an interesting question to answer as this season goes along. I'd be curious to see where they put him. But that's been a positive sign as well. And you saw in some of these wins this week, you got a couple big RBIs. So you're getting the guys that are contributing, that are, you can see being a key piece moving forward. Colson's been obviously huge. I don't think anyone saw him being as good as he's been. The power numbers have been crazy. He's provided pretty solid defense too. So I was happy to eat crow on that one. And I guess this is a lesson to be learned, learning it the hard way. You can't just be focused on minor league numbers, because sometimes it just doesn't translate. You get up and something clicks. I think pitchers even made some adjustments to him because you saw him kind of getting a lull, and he's adjusted right back. So I like that. You can see the confidence growing. He's got the little Yahtzee celebration too. which I like. Apparently, he's a big, you see him when he's rounding 30, rolls the dice. He's a big Yahtzee player. So I like that. But yeah, I mean, cautionary tale. Don't be like Mitch. Oh, look at the numbers guy. Oh, look at the strikeout percent. Hey, he's playing with confidence. You'll love to see it. So, it's not just the Sox are hitting well and play. It's guys that you can see being a piece of the future moving forward. Next point I wanted to get to is Luis Robert Jr. Obviously, you heard a lot of talk about trading him at the deadline. I made my thoughts pretty clear after the fact. I think Chris Getz made the right move. His asking price was not met. Why get rid of him just to get rid of him? They see a lot of value in Robert. Let's bring him back here for another year and then see if we can raise his value again. And I think when you have a lot of these young guys like the Teals and Montgomerys, it's really it looks like it's rejuvenated Robert. That game against Minnesota the other day, that man, he was on no ball was touching the grass in center field. If it was in his general vicinity, that man was catching it. You're seeing him bust his ass down the line, trying to break up double plays, which I don't think we would have seen a few years ago. In the Moncada era, White Sox, you seen Luis Robert do that? No. And this is a team that might lose 100 games this year. And I'm seeing effort out of out of Luis Robert Jr. that I have not seen since 2021 White Sox era. He's hustling down the line. He's playing great defense. And second half, he's starting to hit. He's got that OPS above 800 in the second half. All of a sudden, there's some value here. So I think Chris Getz played that right. And I honestly don't, even if they can't trade him this offseason and they have to do the same thing and start with him in center field, is there really anything wrong with that? I mean, you remember going on CHGO before the season started and Sean Anderson was asking about it. And I was like, honestly, if you get a kind of typical Luis Robert Jr. season that we're seeing, would you really be opposed to extending him or bringing him back? I think with that option too, because you got a couple of years that you can pick up that option at $20 million. So I think he's going to get a $5 million raise from this year. But again, you're looking $20 million for Robert, who, had a rough start to the season. Do you have anyone else that can play center field right now? I don't think Braden Montgomery's ready just yet. And I think he probably fits more in right field anyway. Do you really have anyone else there? At the very least, even when Robert is not hitting well, and you saw this early this year, he provides value defensively. That's a great piece to have for a young pitching staff, a guy that can track down that many fly balls, especially when you got Benintendi and left, whose defense is kind of eroded to this point. It's nice having that center fielder. Robert also, he gets on base. He's stealing bags. He could get a 20-40 season this year. He's going to need a couple home runs, but he could, hopefully that injury last night's nothing serious. But you could have a 20-40 season out of that. And it's not like they're spending that money on anyone else. You're not going to find any better center fielder on the market. So I think for what he provides and even just the potential he has, maybe he'll never become that 2023 player, but there's some value to be had in keeping Luis Robert around, at least for one more season. And if you can trade him, great. But I think he's making things pretty clear cut. You hear Bruce, all these people, this is going to be an interesting decision, what they do with Luis Robert Jr. I think it's pretty obvious. You got to bring him back. You have to bring him back. We got Andy in the chat here. Thanks for joining us, Andy. He said, if they hang on to Luis, do you think he has any leadership qualities or he would just be a good piece to have when he's on? I think there's certainly value to be had from a guy that's been in the organization this long. It's tough to say leadership qualities because I'm not in the room. But if you're just looking lead by example, I thought Saturday's game was a great example of leading by example. They had a pretty big lead late in that game, and he's still tracking down balls in the gap. Right. And so the young players can see that and hey, this is how you're supposed to go about your business. I think it certainly helps that you have this young core there and it's a lot of guys that love baseball. Kyle Teal, you can see it all over his face when he plays. That's a guy that loves playing baseball. He's running the bases, helmet's flying off. You look at it, it's this guy's a gamer, ball player. So I think that certainly helps. When you have all that energy around you, it's contagious. So I wouldn't say necessarily he's a leader per se, but he has been to the playoffs before. He knows what it takes to get there. He has seen what a division-winning team looks like before, which certainly helps. And I think you just do get better with experience. So I think it's not. I think it's just the value he provides to a pitching staff. And now that looks like he's showing some energy. I think and he's not. I mean, by all accounts too, he's a really hard worker. When he was in that slump earlier, they pulled him out of the lineup. He was busting his ass in the batting cage. But from everything, all accounts that I had heard and read, the guy, even when he was in his slump, was working his ass off in the batting cages to try and get things right. And now you're starting to see some of the results second half of the season. So I really hope he does get to that 20-40 mark, because that would be a nice little, that'd be good for Luis. He's had a rough go of things these next couple of years, or these last couple of years. The decision I think will be interesting. I think Robert's pretty clear cut on the pitching staff side. Yeah, since our last episode, they've sent down Sean Burke. They've sent down Jonathan Cannon. Cannon, I think, was needed. Now, he did have a pretty solid stretch early in the year, and I thought Cannon was a game or two. There'd be games like, he was getting it handed to him in the first inning, and he still went out there and he ate innings and took his lumps. So I do respect him a lot for that. And, it's all of his pitches move. So I don't think a lost cause, but I think it's pretty clear he's not a long-term piece of the rotation. He might be better suited for a long-term reliever type role. Burke's a bit more interesting. Burke, I still got a lot of faith in. That curveball looks really good. There's a reason he was the opening day starter. You see the stuff. He had that outing in LA earlier this year against the Dodgers. Like the stuff's in there somewhere. I almost think he got sent down more as kind of like a reset. I think there was something they wanted him to work on, but it's tough to work on it at the MLB level. This is just a guess. But I would imagine, there's probably something they saw in his game that they wanted him to tweak. And hey, let's work on that in the minor leagues. So now with them gone, you got Martin Perez back up eating innings. I think what they do with him next year, that's an interesting one. Because Perez had been very vocal even before the season started. He's like, I think this could be a playoff team. He's like, I think this team's going to be contenders. Now, obviously, that did not happen. And a lot of people were laughing at Perez. But it was very clear. He saw something in that team. And this is a guy that he won a World Series with Texas. He's been an all-star before. He knows what it takes to be successful. But he was very confident in this White Sox team. He comes back, and he's talking to Chuck Garfien, and he was saying, I would not be opposed to be coming back next year either. This is something I want to be a part of. He sees the vision. And he's been good. He's probably been our best pitcher this year. I was looking. He's made 6 starts so far. Half of them have been quality starts. Since coming back from injury, which is an injury too, by the way. And I think this says a lot, too, just about the culture the White Sox have, the type of guy Martin Perez is. And Andy's talking about leaders here. Martin Perez, I think, would be a good leader to bring back and have in the clubhouse. That was an injury initially with his elbow that it was initially reported he could miss the end of the season. And for all intents and purposes, he was done. And he busts his ass to get back and pitch for a team that is on track to lose 100 games. Now, part of that is because obviously he's going to be a free agent. You probably want to boost the value, show teams you're healthy. So there was motivation beyond that. But I think just the fact that he worked his way back to a team that really needed a starter back in here to help eat some innings, that says a lot about Martin Perez. He's been effective. He's been good. 2.02 ERA so far. Even before he went down, 3 of his first 4 starts were really good. His last 2 starts have been good. He only allowed the 1 run in his long relief stint when his first game back. So, the guy's been effective. I think he'd be a guy I would bring back next year. So that's an interesting one to see what they do with him. He wants to come back. He's been pretty good. Yeah, you might have to give him a slight raise, but there's value to be had in a Martin Perez, especially someone that wants to be here. And I think that's a lot of times with these winning teams. And you see it with San Diego. Now, obviously, they're very good this year. But you can get all these stars together. And I think this is the problem the White Sox had, too. There was talent on that team. Like 2022, that White Sox team was talented. They had a lot of good pieces on paper. Even 2021 when they won the division. But you got to have the personalities that fit together and, click. You can have all the superstars you want. But, sometimes the pieces just do not fit. And I think he's a good fit for this team. You want guys that love baseball, that want to be there, that know their role. And I think that's what Perez would do. Will he be a bona fide ace next year? No. If you're bringing him in, you're probably not expecting him to be your number 1 starter. But I think there is value to be had by bringing a guy like Perez back into fold. Other points of note I wanted to touch on. Shane Smith had a really good start the other day. Deepest he's ever gone in the game. Through 7 innings, scoreless innings at that. And I think he was only at 85 pitches. Had he have not thrown over 100 in his previous start against Atlanta, I think they let him go a little deeper into that game. But it's nice to see. That was always the big critique with Shane Smith for me early on this year. And obviously he's a rookie. They're monitoring this inning. This is his first full season as a starter after getting picked up in the Rule 5 draft. The White Sox trying to protect their investment. But even when he looked really good, he's only going 5 innings or so. And you could tell there's a big fall off after the 4th inning. There'd be a drop in velocity. You could tell he was getting fatigued. So now that he's starting to become a little bit more efficient with his pitches, that's coming with experience. He's getting deeper into these games. That's nice to see. that was a very positive sign. You know, there's a Royals team that had been kicking our ass for the most of the year. Like, we haven't won a game in Kaufman since 2023. I mean, that's insane. And then they come to our ballpark and they kind of hand it to us early in the first game that series. So it was nice to see, you know, Shane Smith come in, snap that slump, get deep into a game. He's obviously a piece. Next year going to be wanting to build around. And after that rough stretch, he's gotten his ERA back down below 4. I think he's at 3.87 right now. That's encouraging to see. Curveball looked really good in that start too. And he's throwing a lot of first pitch strikes. He was attacking the strike zone. Good command. That always helps keep the pitch count down too. So I like what the White Sox have been cooking up in that pitching lab, because you're seeing a lot of these guys this year that come in, and like even Hauser after he left, he hasn't looked as nearly as good. So I think between Bannister and Katz, the White Sox really got a good thing going here. Obviously, on the hitting side too, you've seen the bat speeds increase this year. You've seen a lot more guys pop. What they've done with Colson Montgomery and that turnaround is just incredible. You know, there's a case that he could be comeback player of the year just from what he had to go through earlier this year. Yeah, he got sent to the Arizona. Like, he got demoted from AAA, getting sent to Arizona for 2 weeks, not having particularly good numbers, and then to come up and do this. I saw a cool story with him. I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. I apologize. This is what happens when you haven't done a show in a couple weeks, and you only got a little bit of time to get through quite a few things before work here. But Colson Montgomery, cool story. Byron Buxton wanted to get like a signed card from Colson Montgomery, and Montgomery said, "Yeah, sure, but only if you give me a signed bat." So Byron Buxton gave him a signed bat. With a little message on there, like, love watching you play. So that was cool. I mean, game respects game there. So it's nice to see the league starting to take notice to what Colson has been putting together too. A couple other things I did want to talk about before we wrap up here. Again, we realize we're a little bit all over the place. I really have enjoyed watching Yoandres Gomez for the White Sox. He only has 3 starts under his belt, but he's been in a position to win all 3 of them. Gomez, especially, he's been a good find for the White Sox. And he's had a kind of a interesting story too. And this is what you found with the White Sox this year is Chris Getz, as much as I criticize a lot of his 2024 moves, a lot of the pieces he's brought in have been effective. Like Talkman, great pickup. You know, Hauser, another one, diamond in the rough, great pickup. Gomez looks like another guy they took a flyer on. They could be pretty good. He started the year with the Yankees. Actually had pretty good success in his limited time with the Yankees. The problem was he was out of minor league options, and he was kind of just a long reliever. So he gets DFA from the Yankees. Dodgers claim him on waivers. He gets DFA from the Dodgers. White Sox take a chance with him. He starts in Charlotte. He has about like 14 games in Charlotte or so. They're trying to stretch him out into a starter. I believe he made 11 starts, I want to say. Let's take a look. Let me double check that. We're all about facts on this show. Yeah, I think he had 14 out. I think he made 11 starts in Charlotte. But he had pretty good numbers there. They bring him up, give him a chance. Throws 5 innings of pretty good. Like, I think it was 1 run ball in his first start. And Will Venable was saying, like, hey, yeah, you know what? Let's give this guy some more chances. So he's been really good. That's a nice diamond in the rough. His stuff has been very impressive. He's allowed just 4 earned runs in 14.2 innings. He struck out 16 along with that. He's been great. Gomez has been really good. Now, there's one thing that did kind of piss me off, though, earlier this week. And I get it. The move ended up working. But the poor guy, you know, he's won his first 2 starts. He's trying to make a name for himself. And he's at 4 2/3 innings. The White Sox are up by 7 runs, I think, at this point. And I know he let a base runner on. But Will Venable didn't let him finish the inning and let him qualify for the win, which was a little confusing to me. Like, I get it. And, you know, he doesn't have to explain himself. The move worked. They brought in their bullpen. They get out of it. They end up winning the game. But it was frustrating after that game. You know, Will Venable's doing his press conference. Nobody asked him about it. And then the poor Gomez is doing his thing. He's got his translator there. And the same reporters that were just talking to Venable ask him, like, oh, hey, why do you think he took you out? Like, why? So now he's having to answer questions about that and putting him in an awkward spot? Like, what's he supposed to say? That didn't sit well with me. That did not sit well with me. I didn't love the move to not give him the win. And again, it worked. Venable doesn't have to explain himself, but they should have been asking Will, not Gomez. Here, interesting nugget here from Ian. And Ian does a great job for Future Sox. Make sure you're giving them guys a follow too. He's very well tapped in here. He goes, Gomez would have been he would have had a lot better numbers in Charlotte if he wouldn't have had a couple walks in key spots. He was good there too. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, I was going to say, like, anyone that had watched him when he came up, because I remember when I just monitoring Charlotte, is like, who is this Gomez guy they had? Because I saw he was stringing together a couple pretty good ones. And, he had that first good start with the White Sox and was going through his like game logs. Charlotte's like, wow, this really, anyone that's been watching him in Charlotte, apparently this shouldn't have come as much as a surprise because he's a pretty effective and he's only 25 years old too. So he's not eligible for arbitration this year. If he can stay on the White Sox roster the rest of the way, this could be a guy that you could potentially have as a piece moving forward. So I like that move. I was not too happy though. They robbed him of a potential win. And then they're asking, the beat writers and whatnot, they're asking him about it afterwards. And they didn't ask Will. That was a question for Will. I would have loved to hear Will's explanation for that too. And he could have said, I'm the manager. I'm not giving you an explanation. And you know what? That would be fine. He doesn't have to explain himself. But you're going to ask him, that was something that kind of irked me a little bit watching this week. But, if you're going to be complaining about that after an 8-0 win, it's really, it's the worst things you could be complaining about. Finally, how many wins we think the Sox are getting this year? I still think, and I said before the season, I think this team can win 65 games. It's going to be an uphill battle right now, but I think right now they're on track. If they go 2 games under 500 the rest of the way, I think they got like 34 left. If they go 2 games under 500, I believe they can win 63. So, they can go 1 game over 500. Yeah, we could, the 65 wins still within reach. So that would be a huge improvement for this team. It's already been a huge improvement. And they've been fun. You hear a lot of like the fun, bad. They are fun, bad. This is a team that's fun. I enjoy watching them every night. There'd be times last year, because I work for a news station, so I get home pretty late. So a lot of times, I'm going on the MLB app and like rewatch the game from there. There'd be times in 2024, it'd be brutal. It would be a grind because you knew they were going to get their ass kicked. You'd seen the box score. Even this team and their losses, though, there's like they work good at bats. They hustle. Last night's game was a perfect example. It didn't go their way, but they played a pretty good game. For 7 innings there, they were playing some really good baseball. And that's been encouraging to see. So props to you, Will Venable. As much as I was mad that you robbed my guy Gomez of a win, he's got these guys playing hard. And they're playing pretty good baseball. The fundamentals have been overall a lot better this season. So you'll love to see that. We should be back next week. Again, make sure you're following us at Sports Mockery and at Pinwheels Pod. Southside Zoe making his return very soon. I'm sure he has a lot to say about this team. You do not want to miss that. So make sure you're following. Thank you all for you, Ian, Andy in the chat. Thank you guys for hopping on. Have a nice rest of your week.